Hello. So, I just started Mistborn. Um, I've read the first chunk part of the book, part one. Um, Book is divided into, I believe, 5 parts from what I saw in the contents. So, uh, I guess you're getting 5 videos of the first book of Mistborn. Um, Now, I'm calling it Mistborn here because that's how it's usually marketed. The first book is sort of marketed under the name of the whole series nowadays. But back when it was released, it actually had the title The Final Empire. And personally, I think that's a much better title for a book. Mistborn is a good title for the series as a whole, but I think calling this book The Final Empire was a good choice. It's a much better, punchier, more memorable title. But that's beside the point. Title, whatever it may be, the book so far is really good. There's a ton of stuff already that I can see are huge improvements over Elantris. Clearly, Sanderson has been working on his craft between these books. Um, and I enjoyed this one immensely. Uh, Obviously, I'm still enjoying it. I'm just a fifth of the way through, so there's a lot of room for him to mess it up. I mean, I also liked Elantris until like the final few chapters, and then it all kind of went sour. But I like this way more than I ever liked Elantris already. I love the characters. I love Vin and Kelsier. I think they're very interesting. I'll get to that in a moment. Um, I love the setting. It's an interesting setting. Um, I love the moment to moment, like sentence to sentence writing. The dialogue is usually good. There's a few moments where it feels a bit forced. Um, I love the magic system. This is definitely like the magic system of Elantris was technically a hard magic system, but it was this weird spot where it was treated as a hard system by the narrative, but we as readers weren't actually given enough knowledge for it to function as a hard magic system because the characters also didn't know. But many parts of the narrative hinged on it being a hard magic system, and there was this tension there that kind of was awkward, I guess. Um, that is not an issue here. Here we have extremely specific and detailed rules for the magic system already. Um, there's like 2 whole chapters dedicated to Vin and by proxy the reader getting like uh, an extensive 101 course on the magic system. And it never feels like an exposition dump because Vin is learning it alongside with us. So the emotional core of the chapter is her reactions to it. Which I guess brings me to the biggest improvement compared to Elantris, which is the main characters. Now, I have said in the Elantris videos that Hrothin was my favorite character, that while I liked Serene and was fine with Raoden, Hrothin was very much the soul of the book for me until the stupid way his story ended. Um, and one of the reasons for that is that Hrothin was more morally complex than Serene and Raoden. Um, and what I mean by that isn't necessarily that he was morally gray or an anti-hero or anti-villain or whatever, even though he was all of those things as well, but rather that as a reader, you could not reliably always count on him doing the right or wrong thing. There was a tension there, and reading each Hrothin chapter was fills you with this sense of anticipation of what is he going to do? Is he going to do something I will approve of or something I will hate in this chapter? And I feel like I'm going to get more of that from this book because both Vin and Kelsier are very... They're not bad people. And I would even go so far as to say that both of them are good people, but they are good people with complications attached to their goodness. With Kelsier, we've got a very ends justify the means attitude. He is willing to kill for his beliefs and kill some people who not everyone would agree deserve to die. Like, he doesn't kill people who are, like, blatantly innocent, but he does kill people where saying they deserve death is maybe a bit of a stretch in some people's eyes. I don't know how I feel about it personally. I don't know that I would view it differently than he does. Possibly I wouldn't. But I think that a lot of people would. And I might be one of them. I don't know. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. And also his motivations, while technically good, because ridding the world of the Lord Ruler would be cool for everyone and great, and liberate all the Ska, he is, at the end of the day, primarily motivated by a selfish desire for revenge. So he's also not exactly the most altruistic person in terms of his motivations. Vin, meanwhile, does have a strong moral compass. I would even say stronger than Kelsier. She immediately knows when something is wrong, which is kind of interesting. Like when Kaimon betrays the other guy in one of the early chapters, Vin's internal monologue is immediately like, oh shit, we're betraying this guy, that sucks. Like, she immediately recognized it as a wrong thing. But she doesn't do anything about it. Because while she has a moral compass and knows right from wrong, she consciously chooses to ignore it because she has learned that following your moral compass is not gonna get you very far in this world. So she is sort of pragmatic, but she's not pragmatic by nature. She sort of forces herself to be pragmatic. And so I think that there are these moral tensions within both of these characters that make them more interesting to read about. Kelsier also does look down on people a lot. Like, you get the sense that he does feel that he's kind of superior to everyone else. Which is obviously not a likable character trait, but it is an interesting one to read. So, especially in a hero. So I'm really looking forward to what's going on with both of those characters and what choices they're going to make. As for political analysis, so far, no particular thoughts here. It's very early on in the book. I still don't know how the book is going to play out. Thus far, it seems we've got a pretty clear, if not exactly controversial take that fascist totalitarianism is bad, y'all. And revolution against fascist totalitarianism is probably good. So, it's possible that the book won't go into any more controversial political waters than that, which may be for the best, considering some of the more debatable moments in Elantris, especially towards the end, with the politics of the peasantry and the choice that is made, and yeah. But I'm interested to see if Sanderson will surprise me with some, like, actually interesting interesting political implications here, beyond, you know, the the stuff pretty much everyone agrees about. Um, so yeah, that's about it. I would like to share one moment that I found really cool and just immediately became one of my favorite experiences of reading a fantasy novel in my life. Um, so let me just look up this chapter so I can read it for you. So at the beginning, at the beginning of the book, there is the map, which is by the way, a weirdly low definition map. In my Kindle copy of the book, I looked up a higher definition map online and used that instead because what? Um, but yeah, uh, there is a map at the start, and the map is. There's something noteworthy about the map, which is that there are these 7 volcanoes, which are referred to in the text. They're a relevant part of the world building. They're called the ash mounts. And there's 7 of them very prominently sort of sticking out in the middle of nowhere. Like they're not part of a mountain range, they're just sticking up out of the plains. And they're also in like a weirdly artificial setup, like they're clearly in like a perfect circle with one in the middle. And then at the beginning of each chapter, there are these little italicized fragments, which I very quickly, like by the second chapter, I had figured out that these are supposed to be journal entries by the Lord Ruler from before he became the Lord Ruler, when he was clearly some kind of great prophesied hero who was supposed to save the world and then eventually turned into the villain. So keep these 2 things in mind. So one, the world has been fucked up and ruined by these 6 volcanoes, which are all very prominent and weirdly placed on the map. And 2, these fragments at the beginning of the chapters are the journal of the Lord Ruler from before he became the Lord Ruler and before the world got fucked. So this section gave me chills. We arrived in Terrace earlier this week, and I have to say I find the countryside beautiful. The great mountains to the north, with their bald snow caps and forested mantles, stand like watchful gods over this land of green fertility. My own lands to the south are mostly flat. I think that they might look less dreary if there were a few mountains to vary the terrain. I got chills because, first of all, it's always nice when something isn't stated outright, but it's hinted in a way where you clearly get what's happening. But also, that's a really cool way to sort of subtly, but still fairly clearly, reveal what actually happened to the world and who's to blame really early on in the book, without necessarily making it explicit, because I'm assuming the characters themselves don't know where the ash mounts came from. But now the reader does, if they've been paying attention, because that's a pretty clear hint, and it's great. I love stuff like that. Honestly, a part of me hopes that the books never make it explicit. A part of me hopes that that is the extent of it. That is all we get. The only explanation we get for the ash mounts is just the implication contained in that small little paragraph. I'm sure that's not going to be the case. I'm sure Sanderson is going to go into a lot more detail about the backstory and how the Lord Ruler did it and why he did it. And I'm sure it's going to be great. But a small part of me wishes that it would stay at that, just because that would be such a simple, straightforward, chilling hint that doesn't really need anything more, because it tells you everything you need to know. So, yeah, if the remainder of the book has more moments like that, mwah, cannot wait to get to them. And I'm gonna go do that now.